are women's voices so crucial to changing prenatal healthcare and medical care for women? Welcome to another episode of It's Her Turn. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Dow, and I'm really blessed to have our guest today, Susan Aguayo, because so many pieces, but we share a passion of an area that we'll be talking about today, about how women who are pregnant and the challenges they can face that aren't talked enough about and what can happen as a result of those challenges. Susan was born in Peru, but raised in New York City. So she really has a lot of experience about how do you manage adversity and challenges. So let's jump in. Susan, it's so great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dow, for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you, and I'd like you to go ahead and maybe share with us what that was like to just start your, life off in a world that, you didn't speak the language, it was a totally different culture, and you also had some other adversities. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Most definitely. Exactly as you said, coming into a different world, different language. I recall starting kindergarten, and it seemed like I was in a bubble of my own, not understanding what was going on, and yet also having to adjust to the different environments because the climate, there's no snow in Peru. So we came in
Right.
towards the end of the year, and then we saw this white stuff falling down, and we had to understand, oh, that's called snow. Then not having friends. When we moved out here, my mother was the only family member here because my father. So here we had no friends, no family. All we had was my mom and dad, me, my brother, and we said, "Okay, welcome to America." you know,
Right.
just like a movie, and go to school and learn English. So it was very hard because I remember thinking that I was not going to be able to do this. And then there was the other voice in me said, "Oh, you got this. You could do this." And I was only 5 years old. And I remember saying, "Okay, not only did I have to go to school to learn the language, but my mother also was the kind of woman who said, we're only watching Sesame Street. We're only watching Electric Company where you're going to learn the English and now you're going to teach me." So that's what we did.
Oh, right. So double whammy.
So
You
that's
had to you had to not only learn it, you had to be your mama's teacher.
teacher, yes. um and through all that, there was a lot going on. I was the oldest, I said, of me and my brother. My mother then had my sister in the United States in 1973, and so now I was the oldest of three. But there was a lot of, the word that we say, dysfunctional home going on.
Yes.
My
Yes.
father was had arrived here a year before, supposedly to prepare a home for my mom and us. And when we got here, it was very different. It was back in the early 70s. So back then, it was very popular. If I could just picture you the envision of the bees, the lava, the lava lights.
Lava lamps.
Yes, everything. So you walked in. I walked in with my bell bottoms. I had this little pink shiny shirt and this brown. I literally remember these brown bell bottoms and these little platforms that were brown and purple.
Right.
Into this apartment, and here was a single pad. It wasn't a family man.
Yes.
It was
Right.
popular. The Playboy magazines were popular back then. Uh,
Right.
Walked into a single man's home, and to
Wow.
a man who never had drank, who never had smoked, who never had cursed, who was a church man that my mom had married, and a year later was a completely
Gotcha.
different man.
Totally
And
different man.
a different man, and I had to say, "Oh yeah, this is my dad," by picture, but now personality was a completely different
Right.
person. So I was dealing with
Right.
learning the language, teaching my mom, making sure now that my brother and my sister were okay. In an abusive home, my father became a very, very abusive man. So domestic violence was a lot at home. And as I kept growing up, I kept telling myself, as long as I take care of my mom and my brother and my sister, everything's going to be okay. And there
Yeah.
was a lot to deal with,
Ugh.
a lot to
It's a
hide.
lot.
There was a lot to
It's a
hide.
lot.
And, I always think back, if we had what we call he or she wifey then,
Right.
because honestly, the cops were at our house very often, which is really sad and embarrassed to say. They were at our cops, were constantly at our home. And it was like a secret between me and my neighbor, because we grew up in an apartment.
Right.
I would do certain knock saying he's going to hit her again, call the cops.
Oh,
It was,
oh
yeah,
man, Susan, I'm so sorry.
yeah.
But she left him then, right? At
She,
certain point?
she finally left him. It was hard for her. Her biggest fear was, what will we do without your father?
Right.
And she always called me her little friend, because I would say to her, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Because
Yeah, you were a grown up.
yeah, I grew up fast. I remember saying to her, my brother, is funny. We speak about this. Um, I said, one day me and my brother and sister are gonna grow up, go our own way, and you're still gonna be with this miserable man. So you
Yeah.
need to prepare now where you want to be in
Yeah.
your life. And she would look at
Yeah.
me and she would just say, "You're such an old soul." She would say, "You're such an
Yes.
old soul. How do you know these things?" I said, "I just
Yeah.
know." I said, "You need to leave now." So she didn't right away. She'll say leave, or he would leave and then come back. It was like that for
Right.
a,
Right.
a couple of years, but finally, she started going to school to learn English. Besides me teaching her,
Great.
she
Great.
decided that she was gonna get her education, further her education, and she finally
Mhm.
she finally was done, and he was shocked. He was shocked.
Well, and you were a big part of that. And but what I loved a lot about what you share in in your story is how you knew don't settle, like keep going for what you want. And now, so that helped you get your mom out of that situation. It helped you face the challenges at school
Oh yeah.
and be able to make your way in a very unfamiliar world and culture kind of by yourself. But that served you, right? Then you ended up marrying your husband
hmm
and you guys moved to New Mexico. So let's flash forward there and share a little bit about the challenges that you ended up having with your, older kids.
So we moved out here, 2004, with four children. When then we always talked about adopting. So we decided then to adopt, go through the process of adoption, but went up with a group of three, which we're blessed
Wow.
to say. Um, the word wow, exactly. Some say wow, some call me crazy. I said I'm both. But
I know. I'm like, I barely survived having two kids, and you're like, yeah, I have seven.
well, I used to tell him I want eight children. I said, because he came from a large family. He said, "Oh, no, no, we're having two." I said, eight's my lucky number. And I was 19 years old. And he said, "Yeah, but that's a lot." And I said, "Well, I want eight kids." He goes, "Oh, no, we're having two." So, when we had the four, he said, "Well, if you double this, when they get married, that's having eight children. We're done." Uh, but I said, "No, we talked about adopting, so we still need to adopt." And honestly, these children have been a blessing for me. They not only have they kept me going, I think they help me remind me I'm not in my 50s anymore, because I have to keep moving like a 30-year
Definitely.
old. Uh, but having my
Definitely.
four children, they grew up here, because my older one graduated high school, stood behind to go to school back home and live with her grandmother.
Hmm.
So I came with the
Hmm.
three younger ones. So my two girls were in middle school, and my son was in
Okay.
elementary. But as they got older, they went to college, found their partners. They my third one, Cassandra, actually was married. She was going to school at Pittsburgh University, then came back here because her husband, fiance first, and her husband was finishing up at UNM. Uh, in her case, her situation very different than her other sisters who were married and had their children. Um, she wound up getting pregnant sooner than expected. She always wanted to be
Okay.
a mom. Always wanted to be a mom. Um, but
And
soon,
how old was she?
only 21, 21 years
Okay,
old.
so she was young.
Yeah,
She got pregnant a little earlier than she planned,
yeah,
and she was in school.
yeah. And so in her situation, she had never been a sickly child. So for her, to find out she was pregnant and be consistently sick. Consistently, she had what they call
Ah,
hypermethesis, like consistently vomiting. Yeah,
right.
she had
That's
insomnia.
really stressful. That is
Insomnia.
such a yeah, insomnia, it affects how much you can eat
Yes.
and, like, just the state of mind, so that started to impact her not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, yeah?
Most definitely. And the week before she found out she was pregnant, they had just lost their puppy. And, to her, her puppy was like her baby. So she was
Ah,
mourning, and then she found out this good news. And I recall her saying, "I feel so guilty. I'm trying to be happy, but I'm still crying. My Cece passed away." And I told her, "Well,
right,
sweetie, I understand how much your dog meant to you, but you're gonna be a mom. How exciting!" And she's like, "I
right,
am excited. I just feel like I'm still crying over Cece." So it was such mixed feelings
right.
for her. It's such mixed,
Definitely.
and she had put school on hold that semester because he was almost done with school, so she figured she'd work full time. But on the full time, she was promoted quickly to a manager position. So it meant more hours. At the
Mhm,
time, she felt great. We need the money. So now she was responsible for the responsibility of being a new wife, a new
mhm.
household, um, pregnant sooner than expected. And then her comments were, I would say, it was so her, but yet not her. She would say things like, "Will I be a good mom if
Mm,
I didn't finish school yet?" That was my plan, to finish school first. I said, "Sweetheart, you're so young." I said, "You'll be fine. You can continue school afterwards." Or she would
mhm,
say things, "I just want to feel normal again." I said, "You're pregnant. What do you
mhm,
expect? You're pregnant." She would say things like, "I'm just not sleeping well." And I said, "Well,
mhm.
that happens, you're pregnant." I had no idea, even to her doctor that she kept reaching out to, saying, I'm going through these horrible mood swings, which they did share. And they said, "Well, that's very normal, you're very hormonal." She would say, "I'm consistently vomiting, I'm losing weight." So she lost, at 4 months, she already had lost 10 pounds. She had not
Right,
gained. So she showed a belly,
right.
but she had lost 10 pounds. So here,
So she was sharing some of these concerns
yeah.
with the doctors, but this is what happens is they go, "Oh, well, you're pregnant." And then there's this whole fantasy sort of projection we have of you're pregnant, be just happy that you're pregnant. And,
Yeah.
it's no problem because this is the best time of your life. Like we send this message to women that, just be happy. Well, if you're struggling and you don't feel good physically or mentally, then what? Then you're stuck because you're now a bad person if you feel bad when you're pregnant. So
Yeah.
she was trying to say it, but she really wasn't saying all the
In
things that were
deal,
going on
right?
for
In
her, right?
details, exactly. I think it was the guilt. She compared herself a lot to her sisters,
Mhm.
especially to me, and didn't realize how much she would say. And because she journaled, I got to read more, and she wrote stuff on
I see.
Googling and the phone. She would say things, "How did my mom do this? My mom had these
Oh,
incredible pregnancies." Or she would say things like, "I'm probably not going to be a good mom because I'm not feeling excited, and I should feel excited.
mhm.
Why people say I'm
Right.
glowing when I feel lousy?" I
Right.
feel
Again,
like
that yeah,
you put
that
so much.
disconnect
Yeah,
makes us feel bad
the
as a
guiltness.
mom,
Yeah, you
right?
you put so much on a mom, so she don't have the voice to speak up how she really feels, because we have to
Exactly.
be portraying what social media says we should be, or just a point to
Right.
compare. And it's really hard when you tell your kids never compare to each other. Yet it's wonderful if like she always, "I want to be like you, mom." And I always said, "You're going to be better than me." "Oh no, I want to be
Yeah.
just like you." um you feel that's a nice thing to say, but at the same time you realize you want them to find their own way to voice their own feelings without thinking they
Right.
have to be like you. um
Exactly.
yeah, so
Exactly.
her struggles really came with a lot of debilitating illnesses of anxiety that I didn't know, even panic attacks that
Mhm.
I didn't know, even depression I
Okay.
didn't know. And unfortunately, it
Right.
took one really dark evening of her husband not really meeting eye to eye, and her going to the hospital again asking for help. And she was turned away saying, "You've been told you're fine, you're healthy, you're young. This is why you're experiencing. Go home and you'll be comforted by your husband." And instead, she went home cried more, felt lonely, and she was done. She felt nobody's gonna listen to me, and nobody gets it. I don't want to be a burden. And those are the words I found on her phone. I don't want to be a burden. And she took her life.
Oh, and she ended her life.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just
And
so tragic.
we spoke to her the day before. We spoke to her
Ugh,
and how much we loved each other, how many plans we had the following week. The sonogram she had sent the week before, we couldn't see the sex of the
right,
baby. So she was supposed to send
right.
the following week the next sonogram to see whether the baby was a boy or girl. Um,
Mm,
her friends had made so many
Susan.
plans. So
Yeah,
when people sometimes say, "Oh, she was planning this," you know, plan not plan. The point is, she wasn't being heard. Her voice wasn't important enough for people to say, "Let's take this seriously. What can we look into?" And for me,
yeah. People
yeah,
don't make plans. People don't make plans if they are thinking about leaving. There's different behaviors that show, so that's not necessarily true. But what can happen when you are at that level of pain that you don't feel like you can talk about, and people aren't being able to hear it and help you, especially when she's told the doctor, she's gone to the hospital, they've
hmm
sent her home, then you hit a point of hopelessness and despair that in those moments just feels unbearable.
and even
And
her husband, he said, "Well, I don't know what to
yeah,
tell you. You're really being bipolar." I think we use that word so loosely. We do. We use the
yes,
word so loosely when someone is going through those up and down,
yes,
mood swings. And she was. She would even write how guilty she felt that she was so mean to him. And later on, she was crying, apologizing because she didn't know why she was
yeah.
mean to him. She just didn't know what she
Right.
was feeling. Yeah.
Right, and she wasn't getting the help that she needed that, really was the responsibility of her healthcare providers, her doctor, her OB, right? The people at the hospital. And this is the glossing over of the mental health issues, especially in maternal health,
Oh
right?
yeah.
When women are pregnant, that is your cause. So tell us about how did you put on that strength again that you did as a child to say, I could give up or I could keep going.
Yeah, I love how you said that. I think exactly what I say. I gotta keep going. It's gotta be better than this. I was growing up my whole life. Those words echoed. It's gotta be better than this. Even I'll be honest, I had before I got married to my incredible husband, I was in a bad relationship, and I was young. He was
Mhm.
older, and I could think it's gotta be better than this. And exactly what I did when my daughter when we got that call. I'm not gonna lie, I did break down, but it took
Of
this
course.
mini moment of only breaking down and then watching around me, my children, my husband. I kept thinking that when my mom finds out, always looking how the family is going to react. I'm going to have to take care of everybody again. So all I did was
Mm,
I went into survival mode. I went to
yeah.
survival mode and I said, oh no, let's take care of everybody first. I'll come afterwards. And I really would say I really thank a lot to my faith. It made me realize there's got to be something behind all this tragedy that I'm going to learn from. There's got to be something,
Mhm.
the reason why this tragedy happened, that something's going to come out of this. So what I chose was she passed away in March 2015. um, April, I got myself together, and then May and June, I became a detective, going around getting every single copy of her appointments to find out every single information. Even reach out to the police officers. You do enough autopsy, everything. July, my daughter kept. I don't use the word haunting, but she kept coming in dreams to say, "Mom, you have to help people." And I was like,
Oh,
in what
wow.
way? We just opened up my other daughter had made a blog, a mom blog, and we thought that was enough. And I said, I don't know what else to do. And people literally were just approaching me in different ways of nonprofits. And I thought, a nonprofit, how can I help in a nonprofit? And so Casey's Cause came in a dream, and I said, okay, I got to do this. And just unite my other daughter, her teacher, her best friend. And we opened up a nonprofit. People say it'll take about a year almost. And we had it in a few months. And we sat there and we said, okay, now what do we do? And we started writing our vision. We started writing the mission of what we want. And it was to help moms get the resources and the information they need for their voices to be heard.
Right.
And that's what we do right now.
Cassie's cause, right?
Yes. Yep.
Cassie's cause.
Yep. And
Yeah,
she's
so powerful. It gives me chills. It just gives me chills because, you know, challenges and pain and suffering happen in life, and it's how we meet it. And it's not about not feeling it, because feeling it is
right.
important, and in processing that trauma, but then moving forward, having that vision to say, what's next? What can I do? Like you said, what can get better? And for you to step into that role to say, I want to help families. I want to help moms know how important it is to speak up. And not just moms, you're out there talking to doctors and hospitals too. Tell us about that.
So when we started spreading up into our board, we literally got doctors involved. We got community health workers. We had midwives, and we were able to say to them, "Did you know about this?" And some of them would say, "We do, but it doesn't happen that often." Well, I just researched it. 20% have been documented, so it does happen pretty often. It's just not spoken about. So that means we're not
That's right.
listening to women's voices. And that's what stuck with me.
That's
Women's
right.
voices. We're not listening to their voices. Because I could hear in my daughter's
Eh,
voice for every mom that I get calls from now asking for help. I think of my daughter's voice and I take every phone call serious, and I take every phone call to heart. And I say, it's not that you don't have a mom, because I my daughter was close with me. We were so close, and still she felt scared and guilty and a burden. It's
Yeah.
not that she don't have a
And
spouse, and it's not that maybe she don't have a grandmother. My daughter had everything you could think of, even her
mhm.
best of friends, even the church leader she was close with. But when you're
Mhm.
depressed, you could be in a room of 100 people and still
That's
feel
right.
alone. And I thought I would
That's
make
right.
sure I would not allow any other mother feel this way, any other child not have the opportunity to be born because the mother's voice wasn't listened to, and every
Right.
husband not have to feel guilty. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're giving people the education to be able to understand this is real.
Oh, and it moves me because, of course, I've told you that I've been through postpartum. I had it really bad with 2 kids because of many different risk factors, and I would go in and tell the doctor, tell the pediatrician, and they would be like, "Oh, you're just tired. You're just, you have these small babies," and I was having a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression of like, "Oh my god, I can't handle this," And so I know how powerful it is when what we call perinatal mood disorder, right? Now we
Mm-hmm.
call it perinatal mood disorder, or people know it as postpartum depression, that happens actually during pregnancy, which was true for me as well. I had a lot of the anxiety and depression during it, but nobody validating that that's what was happening. It was just, "Oh, you're just pregnant," or, "Oh, you're just having hormones," and we literally silence women
Yeah.
when we give that impression
Yeah.
that this isn't what's happening. It's like, "No, it's in your head," or, "No, it's just because your hormones."
They'll make a big deal out of
And
this.
we're
Yeah.
right, we're
Yeah.
invalidating
Yeah.
women,
Yeah.
and now you're out there bringing this to these people on all levels, right? To the families, to the women, and to the doctors to say, "Stop minimizing and ignoring this because it's a problem," right? 20% of pregnant moms end up ending their lives because of maternal mental health issues, just as 20% of women who go through postpartum are at risk for,
Mm-hmm.
postpartum issues between, baby blues and severe, levels of it. So it is a real issue, and you are making a difference with this. And wow, it's just very moving to me to know what you're up to, and how you are showing people how to make their way through this. You're making such a difference.
Well, I think what really helped for us to do what we're doing in 2017. Again, my daughter, I said she just in a dream. Also, she haunted me in a dream. She said, you know, get a bigger vision. And I woke up. I need to do a film. I need to do a documentary. And so, I had people on the board be like, "We don't have the money." I said, "Oh, no, no, no. Let's not. That's not ever an option. My husband's like, we don't have the money. I said, no, no, I'll figure it out. And so I took out a business loan. I reached out to a production company that had worked with my younger son, who was in the industry of acting, and I said, can you help me, help me get this done? And I went and I focused on getting a panel of women, professional women, to show that nobody's immune. So not only did I get
Right.
doctors, I got musicians, I got nurses, I got them from different backgrounds, an Indian, Hispanic, a Caucasian, people to see.
Beautiful.
It doesn't matter if you're a professional, it doesn't matter if you're a high school student. It can happen to anyone, your first child, your third child. And we got local actors to reenact now that I knew what the signs were that didn't know then. And then my son-in-law
Right.
filled in the spots that I didn't know about. And the documentary is not on her life, but it's based on what happened to her because no one listened to her. And look, these other women that have gone through this. This is real,
Yes.
and it's still
Yes,
happening
this is real.
behind closed doors to so many people
Right.
who are not getting this information to. So
Right.
it's now being used as an educational tool at the home visiting programs. It's being used for residents coming in. um, and yeah, that's probably my proudest moment because I don't want to be looked upon just as a mom who lost her child. I want to be looked upon as a person that's giving mom the voices to speak up. And we're also
Yes.
we've partnered up with PSI, which is Postpartum Support International. So I'm the
Yes.
facilitator for their Spanish speaking support groups, as we have also Cases Cause also has their support groups as well that we have facilitators for.
It's amazing, because I was part of postpartum support in New Mexico from, 2000 20 and no 2000 to just like I think I stopped in 2015. So I know
Wow.
how important it is for us to be holding that space for new moms as well as, reaching out to the medical community to teach them because I did the same thing. So, you really carried on this legacy with your daughter's loss, into making a difference. And I'm really excited to collaborate with you and see what else we want to do in New Mexico. But really, this goes out to all corners of the world. This podcast is so important because, women knowing if you're a mom, how to pay attention and get help and speak up. And Postpartum Support International will have it, the link in the show notes. It's postpartum.org or no .net,
Net.
and then we'll also have the link for Cassie's Cause, Susan's nonprofit here in New Mexico. And know that there's people all over the world who are connected with Postpartum Support International, so they can help you find excuse me, counselors. And also on their website they have lots of information and they have support groups as well as at Cassie's Cause. So there's resources out there. And if you simply know someone who's pregnant or your own adult child is pregnant, you know get the information, know what the signs are, be vigilant, and don't sit by and wait for them to drift away into feeling alone and no one cares. That's the main message, is we want women to know they're not alone, it's not their fault, and they can get well, right? But
Yes.
they can't know that if everyone's ignoring it and pretending this should be your happiest lifetime, so we're not going to bring it up.
Yeah. And it's very
So
cultural
what is
too. It is.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
very cultural. I've had Hispanic grandmas call my line and say, my granddaughter's saying these ridiculous things. She's feeling depressed, but she told me to call your number. And then when I tell her my story, she says, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm glad I said that you did call, and I'm glad that she reached out to you. Let's get her help. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. That's so important, right? Because a lot of families from different cultures, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of it's sort of like, "Well, I toughed it out, you'll
Mm-hmm.
just tough it out." And we're at a different time. The level of stressors that people deal with because of environmental toxins, social media, the way the world is all speeded up and stressed out, it's a different time, and it is more crucial and more, I think, at risk for women. So
Mm-hmm.
Susan, it's been amazing having you. Is there any closing comment you have? Like, you kinda just shared this about, the young woman saying, "Grandma, please go call Susan."
You don't believe me.
So, that feels like such a great way to end. Like, "If you have any questions, call Susan.
Yeah, it was
If
kind of
you're worried, your grandma won't get it or your mom, call
it
Susan."
was cute, exactly what she did. It was really cute. She was, "Call this lady at this website, you don't believe me." And I've had a
Yes.
few of those. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful, again, having my faith that's really keep me focused, that this
Yes.
is temporary. And that's the best way I
Yes.
could put it. This is temporary. And if, because it's temporary, we should do the best we can for it, then that's what we need to do. I'm grateful I get those phone calls from nurses that really do take this seriously, that the baby's left in NICU, mom just went home and she looks like a wreck. Or a husband.
Yes.
I've had husbands say, I saw your website, and because of this, I'm able to be understanding with my wife that's pregnant now. Good. This is what I want. This is what I want, is women to be acknowledged that pregnancy is not easy. Motherhood is not a piece of cake. No matter what the
Mhm.
Kardashians make it seem like, it's not easy. It's
It
work.
isn't. It isn't, and we're all at risk. Mothers are more at risk for mental health issues during childbearing years than any other time. So it just automatically comes with that situation. And the more we talk about it and acknowledge it and make it common knowledge, right? Common awareness, the better we can take care of moms and help them feel seen and heard and loved.
Most definitely. Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us today. And we are going to put all those contacts into the show notes. And again, thanks again for coming. And for those of you that are listening, I really hope that you are taking away some important little support and wisdom and nuggets of information that you can pass on to people in your life that need to know this, need to hear this episode if they're a mom or they know of a mom who might be struggling, so that we are showing up and taking care of mamas everywhere. I
Yes.
loved having you here. And if you're loving what's going on here with this podcast, just go ahead and share it and give us a review if you're so moved, and subscribe so you can find out what we're doing next. We're always up to something new. I'm your host, Dr. Kate, and I'm reminding you to know that it's your turn to find your voice, own your truth, and claim your power. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.